What's up, everybody? Another episode of the Ripple Fed Podcast. I'm super excited today. We got an awesome guest. It's been like 3-4 weeks since our last podcast. Yeah. This is the longest time we've ever been without doing a podcast. So if we're a little rusty, just give us a little bit of time. We'll hammer out interesting conversations quickly. Today we got. By the way, we haven't said this in a couple podcasts either. Check out our us on iTunes. Check us on. You can subscribe to it. You can subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Our Facebook page, you can just look us up, you'll find us. And also do it, but same thing with our guests. Once I introduce him, definitely check out his podcast and I rate his podcast and all that stuff, because that's I don't think any of us podcasters understand what this iTunes rating thing does, but we just all know that it helps. So so do that, I guess, and I guess it'll be supportive to us. So today we got a martial artist. I mean, this is going to be long. He's a martial artist. He's a professor. He's a philosopher, author, sometimes a comedian. And Daniele Bolelli, he's from Italy. He writes about religion, which is a conversation some people think is taboo and stuff, but he doesn't shy away from. He also, I know he teaches history, Native American history, a little bit of everything. He's kind of dibble-dabbled in whatever people want to ask him to teach, he'll teach. And he's just a super interesting dude. Wrote his first book when he was 20. I believe his father's a really popular, Franco Bagnielli's really popular modern philosopher in back in Milan, Italy. So it's something that me and Dave are really excited about, because we got tons of topics to hit and tons of subjects to kind of get his opinions on and bounce some ideas off each other. So with further ado,
the only thing I think you missed was father, and I think that's something you take a lot of pride in. So I want to throw that on the end there.
Oh, that's right, father and podcaster. So that's right, because Dave also has I believe Daniele, you have a daughter. Yeah, Dave also is a father with of a daughter. I see the common thing with all my buddies that have daughters. The bond is definitely unique, and I think you definitely learn a lot about yourself and stuff. So one day I'll have a kid. I'm sure I'll understand the experience. But so we got Daniele Bolelli, and like I said, check out his podcast, The Drunken Taoist. You can find it on his personal website. You can follow him on Twitter. If you just Google Daniele Bolelli, you'll find him. He's been on the Joe Rogan podcast. He's been on the Duncan Trussell podcast. He's just a really intriguing guy. So today we got Daniele Bolelli. Let's open up with one of the conversations. And thanks for responding to us. One thing you're gonna learn about this guy. This guy really. Some people say they care about their fans and all this stuff, and they thank people for listening to them and buying their stuff. But he really does. I mean, we were just kind of green, in the whole podcasting world, and he responded. He was one of the first guys to get back to me, and so I just can't thank him enough to be on. So thank you, Daniele.
Anytime, man. It's my pleasure.
And let's start off actually with something that just happened recently. The Nelson Mandela thing. It's funny because I just tweeted one of his quotes recently, and it brings up an interesting conversation or debate that people have. The whole idea of, and I know you've been asked this numerous of times, but some people in the religious side say that without religion, we wouldn't have the guidelines to kind of figure out what morals and to kind of figure out good from evil and stuff like that. And I know, like Nelson Mandela, one of his quotes, I'm going to butcher it, but it was something along the lines that it was one of my favorite quotes for him about a kid when he's born. He's not born with hating somebody for their religion or for their skin color or anything like that. It's something that's taught, and you can also teach love. And it reminds me of like this thing that I've seen both sides of the debate, and I'm kind of like you. I don't ever concrete my ideas on anything, because I'm a true believer that anytime you pick a road to go down and you say, this is my opinion, this is my ideas, I'm not going to listen to anybody else. There could be some other ideas and opinions that you're missing out on that could easily mold your opinions and ideas, and some really good point of views that you're missing out on. And who wants to be wrong anyways? Who wants to go down this road believing that they're right, and then come to find out one day they're like, holy shit, I never listened to that side of the argument, and they were right the whole time. So one of the things he said about teaching kids to love and stuff like that, is that something that you hear a lot about with the debate about without religion, because you obviously know a lot about religious history, and
Sure.
I'm sure you hear that debate a lot, that it's at least it gives good guidelines Do you believe in that? Do you think that without religion we still would find our way? We would evolve, or we would consciously understand morals and figure out that when we hurt somebody it's bad, and when we don't hurt somebody it's good, and we feel good. Do you think that would still be figured out?
Yeah, I don't think religion in this regard has any monopoly over morality, even because within religions there are not as clear-cut standards as they often advertise they have. If you look at how the morality of the Judeo-Christian tradition has evolved over time, this was a tradition that at one point in time was totally fine with slavery, was totally fine with that passages explaining how you can properly beat your slaves and under which condition you can kill them. So, and the fact that eventually it moves in a completely different direction, that seems to suggest that they are the first one to have a somewhat relativist attitude about morality. So I don't see religion as being this bedrock of solid moral principles. I mean, look at the archetypal case. To me, this one is funny, I guess, is if you have a really dark sense of humor, but the Ten Commandments, supposedly this bedrock of morality. One of the Ten Commandments is about how you shouldn't go around murdering people. Now, the first thing that happens in the biblical tale after Moses received the Ten Commandments is that he comes down the mountain, find out that there are lots of Jewish tribesmen who are worshipping other gods, so he gathers his followers and probably murders them all. Having 3,000 fellow Jewish tribesmen being hacked to pieces with swords because they don't honor the same God who told you that that is bad to kill people. So if they don't honor that God, clearly you should kill them, right?
Yeah.
And talk about messing with it. That's like a clear-cut standard of morality. What the hell is that? That's very far from it.
Well, that's why I tend to believe that if anything, the evolution of us going from interpreting religion or using it to justify harming people, and now we I guess better understand it, they would say, but really I think that we evolved as a culture and we understood in time, like we use this book to kind of justify this violence, and now we use it and we pick the things that make sense, that violence isn't good. And I think that transition wasn't because of religion, but it was because of us evolving as people and understanding that this was bad. I mean, the way we went from like monkeys in a tree to doing a podcast, talking to somebody in California, was because of I think we're conscious animals, and I think we tend to try to figure things out, and I think morals is probably no different. We probably try to figure things out. We started understanding that when we hurt somebody, it didn't make me feel good. I've said this quite a few times about the whole idea of the problem with like using labels like Christians and conservatives and Catholics and atheists, and anytime we use these labels, we end up tending to separate ourselves instead of just looking at everybody as, okay, we're humans. Let's just look at it as we're humans. When somebody gets hit by a car, we don't think like, should I go help them? What if they're not the same religion of me? What if they're not the same believe in the same political beliefs as me? It's not. We don't think those things. Our first instinct is let's go help, and I think those other things only separate us and only make us look at certain people like they're maybe not valued as much or whatnot, and so I don't think it does any good, and that's kind of like my problem with atheism too, is just even though like I'm an atheist, but the thing is that I also feel like when you have atheists, and I love Richard Dawkins, I think he's a really interesting person, Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, these are all really interesting dudes, but there's something about being atheist that I think when you go to the extreme where you start disliking religious people as much as they dislike people who aren't religion, doesn't that cause an issue? Don't you think that you almost become the same thing you dislike?
Absolutely, because I mean that's why I agree with you. Some of those guys are fun to read and they write well, or like Hitchens was a really funny guy. He made good points, but then once he had a very simplistic view of the world in some ways, because his idea that all religions were all the same, whether you're talking about the most fundamentalist branch of Christianity or some esoteric set of Buddhism, religion is in its entirety all equally bad, that's just downright silly, because that's just looking at lacking nuance into any kind of analysis of what's going on. Because, people who argue that there's only one truth and it depends on this one God that reveals it to you, are clearly not the same people who hold the beliefs that you have to find a certain spiritual principle within yourself. And the reality is that there's an enormous variety within each religion, let alone among different religions. So to try to sweep them all under the rug as if they are all the same thing is just, it's just completely off base.
Yeah, and that's why I love. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. That's why I love your book, Create Your Own Religion. Actually, we have it here. We'll actually put it up for the video that we're recording. And we also have your other book, 50 Things You Aren't Supposed to Know About Religion. The reason I love about that book, and you say this in a lot of interviews, is the idea that you shouldn't dislike all religion in general, like Dawkins or Hitchens, but there's things you can pick from each religion that are good. I mean, I know Christians, and I don't shy away from debates, and not so much debates. I tend to find myself in them, but I don't look for them. I'm not afraid of talking about any subject. I think if we talk about anything open-mindedly, that it shouldn't be taboo to say, oh, at a dinner table or at a family get-together, two things you don't talk about is politics and religion. It's like I don't believe in that, because I believe that the only progression we've ever seen in the world has been because of the help of conversation, because somebody who doesn't believe in something talked to somebody who believed in something else, and maybe it's helped them see things from a different point of view and different light, and that's how we progress. It's and I've used this reference before, like the whole thing with slavery and women's rights. It's all because somebody said, hey, we're conditioned to believe this is the norm, but I'm going to talk about this, and I don't think this is right. So I think that all conversation should be on the table, and as long as you're respectful and are willing to listen as much as you're willing to talk, then we should talk about these things. And your book, you talk a lot about that, like take certain things away from religion or certain religions that you like, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I've met Christians that I have friends that are very Christian that I'm friends with, that are really good people. I have a buddy who's very Catholic, who's a really good person, and you would think somebody like me, an atheist, we wouldn't get along, but we do get along, and they're a lot of good things that they take from their religion. It's probably some of what their love for Jesus and whatnot, and some of the things in the Bible. It's probably why they're great people, but of course you can always manipulate that and use it for anything. But there are people who use it for good. I know this kid who was he was a drug addict, and he had his life was going down the tubes, really was just had in and out of rehab, this and that, and he says that he found God and it helped him find the strength to get over that. So in that case, in like an example like that, it became a good thing, because even though I don't believe, I think that he's taking credit away from himself and he's giving it to somebody else, but either way, he found strength because of something he believed in, even if I believe it's like a placebo effect kind of, but it still worked. So I think, in those circumstances, it's a good thing, and just like the way I know that you're into Buddhism, and so is Dave's into Buddhism, and because there's things that you guys like about it, and I don't think that we should ever be too anti something because of that reason, because then we end up, there could be things we could take away from it that we enjoy.
Absolutely. Any kind of ideological approach to reality, I find it misguided. Because at the end of the day, I don't really care what label somebody has attached to them. I care at how they behave, how they relate to other human beings, whether they are kind people or not. Those are the only things that interest me. Whether, you're a hardcore atheist, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, you name it, totally irrelevant in my way of looking at things. Now, it's fun to have a conversation about some principles, so that on an individual level, I get to find out what some beliefs are out there, what other beliefs are out there, and I get to pick what makes sense to me, what can actually help me, rather than hurt my development as a human being. But when it comes to other people's choices, I don't care to judge them based on the label again. I'm only interested in where those ideas and beliefs lead. If your approach to being Muslim means that you will help old ladies cross the street and you're nice to your neighbors, then great. It wouldn't do it for me, but whatever. As long as it does it for you, that's what counts. For all I care, if you believe in pink unicorns and that's the foundation of your worldview, but it makes you a nice human being, fine by me. Yay, pink unicorns. I really don't care about ideology, because by the same token, you can have some really horrendously totalitarian secular people. When you look at the history of Nazism, when you look at the history of much of what happened in many communist countries, you have a more secular viewpoint that was heavily repressive and totalitarian, much in the same way as the wars Christian fundamentalists or Muslim fundamentalists or whatever fundamentalists have been. The fact that one is a religion and one isn't, completely secondary to the fact that they are both assholes and they both want to impose their viewpoint on everyone else. So the religious or not issue to me is secondary. It's a way of life, is where do your beliefs lead? What kind of a way of life do they build? That's what interests me.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's how does it relate to you, and is the outcome what you take from it a good thing? Actually, I wanted Dave to actually tell this story about how he got into Buddhism, because remember, you haven't said it once on the air yet. Remember how you found the book?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much open to anything, and interestingly enough, much like your personality, when I was in college, I had a professor that was very similar to you, and I was brought up Catholic, and my worldview was shocked when I saw this college professor saying all these blasphemous things about Christianity and pointing out all these things in the Bible that I had never been exposed to or wasn't aware of. And one of the things that I had done as a young person was every time I found myself in a hotel, I would open the drawer to find the comfort in the fact that the Bible was always there. But my first trip to Hawaii, I found the teachings of Buddha in the drawer, being more of an Eastern religion, and pulled the book out of the drawer and took it as a joke. I thought it was something just interesting. It was different to me, and I started flipping through that, and found so many things, much like what you just said about how you treat other people is really, that's what really spoke to me about Buddhism. It wasn't so much, it was so far different from Catholicism, which I had been brought up under the umbrella of, that it opened my mind, and there are things about it that talked about dissect everything and break everything down, and if you don't believe it, then it's not true. Question everything, which was the opposite of what I had learned. And so that's what got my interest in Buddhism was that, and this one college professor that I had that pretty much just was a master of multiple religions and understanding, the positive things that it brought out and also the negative things that it brought out. And it was funny, reading your book really brought me back to that time in my life, and it reminded me of that open-mindedness that just brought me, I don't know, I find a lot of happiness in being exposed to different things. And in reading your book, the thing that really caught my attention was almost something that I took away as a prayer, where you talk about worshiping life. I don't even know if it was something that you had. To me, that was the most outstanding part of the book. It really stuck out to me, and it almost seems so small as a part of your book, but big to me. Do you recall the passage in the book where you talk about?
Yeah.
It just, that is this, to me, is the spirit of life. I mean, could you share? I don't know if Rick recalls that part, but if you want to elaborate on that or share that, would be awesome to hear.
Yeah, actually, it's funny how you write, at least how I write things. Sometimes I take notes about certain subjects for years and years, and then it's only much, much later I end up using them in something. Like that particular piece I had written long before I even thought of the book, and it just sat there as some random one-pager somewhere, almost in poetic format. And then eventually, as I was writing, I was like, oh, this would fit perfectly right there, and I love this piece. It captures a lot for me, so I threw it in there. But basically, yeah, in many ways, life itself is more interesting than any ideology. Any ideology is a way to try to rationalize life, to try to make it fit in a coherent scheme that makes sense from A to Z. The beauty and the intensity of life itself is something that to me is beyond ideology, is beyond words, is beyond any human attempt to claim it. It's something that you feel. It's something that it gets you in the gut. It's not something that is purely catches you as an interesting concept. And so that piece of writing is where I was kind of going in it. And but what did you get out of it?
The feeling that I got was, and when we talk about being an atheist or finding religion and things of that nature, I've always found that when you abandon all this dogma, because of my upbringing, I find myself with this energy that I feel that I need to direct somewhere through prayer or whatever the case may be. And when you strip away all this dogma and you're left with just life, that is really where the worship should go, in the beauty of the things that are everywhere. And you touch on everything with such passion, and you touch on so many different things that independently are so random yet so connected through our lives, and in kind of a way.